It's still loading.
I get those goosebumps every time, yeah, 713 through the 281, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me? Why they on me? I'm flying, sipping low-key. I'm sipping low-key and honest, riding right up. I get those goosebumps every time. I'm around, cause I'm hard to make everything go fine. I get those goosebumps every time. I need the Heimlich, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around, we throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time.
Up the mags. Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the big match preview on Loaded Mag NUFC and another ginormous match for Newcastle United at the weekend as we welcome. Well, I say we welcome. We don't welcome. It's not St James's Park. We go to Brentford for the big game, and I'm looking forward to getting our guest on to talk all about it because it's a massive game for Newcastle. But first of all, Daz, Chris, how are you?
Pete, I know you're targeting the people in Asia when you say good evening. I'm going to say good morning to the people in Europe because by the time this one drops, it'll probably be morning. But all good with me. Massive win last night, or I don't know what day it's. Yeah, massive win against Liverpool. Sorry, not win, draw. It felt like a win, didn't it? Yeah, all good with me. Chris, how are you? How's the head?
Oh, mate, I feel rough today, you know. I really do. But the show must go on. And really looking forward to obviously speaking to Lewis to talk all things Brentford. The Newcastle-Liverpool game is gone now. It's gone. We've got our point. So now we look forward. We look forward to the 3 o'clock kickoff. And for anyone watching anywhere in the world, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. I'm going to cover it all. But Pete, how are you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, it's exactly that. Looking ahead now, in what is a mammoth game. I've said ginormous and mammoth in the intro. I don't know why, but it's a massive game, and for obvious reasons as a Newcastle United fan, and of course, let's welcome in our guest to talk all about it from a Brentford perspective. So, it's an absolute pleasure to welcome back Lewis from Besotted Bees. Let's welcome in.
Welcome, Lewis.
Hi, guys. Hi, everyone.
Hello, mate.
How you doing, Lewis? I know it's bad weather where you are, swirling winds.
I'm really well, thanks. Just disappointed after a really poor result last night against Villa, but that's been the way of things this season for us away from home.
Yeah, I think it's been the way of all Premier League teams, apart from you would argue Liverpool this season, where it has been a little bit inconsistent, should we say? But look, before we get onto the league table and overlooking the season, let's talk about the game that you played during the midweek, and it was going to Villa Park. I've got to be honest. I thought you would cause them some problems. I thought you would be right in that game, and I actually thought you might sneak a win. So what happened? Why did it turn so quickly into a really disappointing performance?
We started brightly. First 10 minutes, we were the better side, and there was a chance there for us because Villa are been having a string of poor results, haven't been able to score a goal. And then suddenly we just lost control of the midfield, and there's huge open spaces that opened up. They hit us so hard on the counter, and we were just at 6s and 7s really. And before we knew it, we were 3 goals down. I mean, the penalty for the second was a bit debatable. The third shouldn't have counted, I would say, because the ball was crossed. Pinnock beat Watkins in the air, but it kind of went over the back of his head, and there was Cash at the far post. But goals this season have been given. Watkins was offside, clearly offside. But VAR had a look and were happy with it. And that was very disappointing. I mean, they deserved to be a couple of goals up at least, but I think going into half-time 3-0 down, that's like a mountain to climb, really. And we did improve massively in the second half, just tweaked the system a little bit, and we got our game together and pulled it back to 3-1, had a fairly good chance to make it 3-2, but then we just ran out of time, really. But it was pleasing to see that second half performance. It was us back at something near our best. But first half was pretty woeful, really. And we've had this as a pattern at Villa Park last few seasons. I went up there, 2 years ago, 4-0 or 4-1, I think it ended up as. And then last season we were 2 down again very quickly in the game, and we managed to pull it back to 3-3. But so there was part of me that was hoping that was going to happen last night, but it wasn't to be. But we've got 1 point so far in, I think, about 6 games on the road. And I mean, that's relegation form, really. I mean, the season started with us having a pattern of very winnable games at home and really tough games away. I think Everton's the only game we've played away so far against a team that you wouldn't expect to be like top 6, top 8. So we played Liverpool, City, Man United, Villa last night, Spurs, at least one other tough game. So as this, in advance of the season, we looked at the fixture list and you could tell it was going to be like, got to win our home games. The away form's just been poor, really.
Yeah, just looking at the league table, you're a point ahead of. Sorry, you're not a point ahead of us. You're a position ahead of us in the league. Exactly the same points, and the goals scored in against are very different for Newcastle and Brentford, because you've scored 27, but you've conceded 26, and Newcastle are 17 each on that. Is that is that to be expected with the makeup of your team and the style of play, that you will go and attack teams and score goals, but you are susceptible at the back to potentially conceding them?
Yeah, we've kind of changed our formation, certainly in games away from home, and there's more bravery about the way that we play. So, for instance, away from home, we go 4 at the back. Last year, against the likes of Villa or Liverpool, we'd have been 5 at the back, no doubt about that. It would have been a 3, but it would become a 5 very quickly. We'd have gone into a low block and just really trying to nick something, that kind of approach. This season, we are much more attacking, taking many more risks. So you'll see moments where last season we would have probably cleared the ball, got it upfield and hoped for something. This season, we're trying to play through the midfield a lot more. So I think we're kind of in transition, really. And whereas last season, we'd probably have got, last 3 seasons, really, we probably got where we've got to through having a really tight defence with Christian Norgard sat in front and almost always one more holding player as well. And then hope that the likes of Mbeumo or Toney would have done something for us. This season's very different, and I think that's leaving us a lot more exposed at the back. But that's part of, I think, what Thomas Frank, he thinks, I think, that for us to progress, we've got to start taking more risks. We've got to be braver in possession. But yeah, we've conceded a lot more goals this season because we've just left the back door open a lot more, but our home games have been genuinely exciting. Every single game has produced goals. I think the last 4 home games, this might be wrong, but I think there's like between the two sides, it's 25 goals. So we've had 5 3s, we've had 3 2s. The other day against Leicester was 4-1. So there's the entertainment at Brentford has been fantastic this season. The best I've seen since the Championship. We're playing some really nice stuff. But we know that when we play at home, we concede. It's as simple as that. That's part of the deal at the moment.
You know it's going to be 0-0 now, Lewis, after that.
I know.
I was thinking it's going to be a goal fest part 2, boys. 3-3 against Liverpool the other night.
Yeah.
And now we're walking into a goal fest.
Yeah, I caught the tail end of your game last night, and because I didn't go up to Villa Park, actually, I couldn't make it up there, so I watched the whole lot on whatever the channel was, and turned over for the last quarter of an hour, and it looked fantastic. Your game really did. You couldn't call it, really.
No, yeah, it was a close one. But look, boys, I'll come to you with regards to Brentford. That's Chris. Brentford in and around us, ninth position. Double check, 9th position in the league. Similar points to us. What have you made of their season? And did you expect them to be in this position at this point in the season?
I never expect Brentford to be up where they are, but they always keep surprising us, really. But I have one question for Lewis, and I just remember when Ali was on with us before, and we were talking about Bryan Mbeumo, and Ali valued him at 100 million. So he's a year older now, Lewis. He's a year older. So I want to know, would you take 40 million for him?
Well, do you know what? I mean, I think he is a sensational player, and his stats this season are good. I think he's got 8 goals in, 13 games or whatever it is. But actually, he's been pretty anonymous the last 5 or 6 games. He was on the fringes of it last night. He's out of form. And, I know that there was talk of him being lined up as a successor for Mo Salah. Any Liverpool scout who's been watching him closely this season will be telling Slot not to touch him with a barge pole. He's out of form. So I do rate him really highly. 100 million, I don't know. I think 43 to 60. He's 25 years old now. He's a bit older. I wouldn't want him to go for less than 50, put it that way, in today's prices. But he is at the moment not at his best.
Interesting. What are his biggest attributes then? What makes him stand out? Because obviously we watch him and we see as opposition fans the good moments, the glamour moments where he does those bits,
the highlights,
or a bit of skill, but someone that watches him every week, what makes him the type of player that makes opposition teams want to sign him?
First touch is normally like pretty perfect. Think kind of Riyad Mahrez or someone. His first touch is superb. He's quick. He's not electric, but he's quick enough. He's a clever player. He's got a really nice left foot, and he's become more two-footed over the years. He links up particularly well with Wissa up front. They've got a really nice partnership, those two. And this season, Brian's finishing has actually been good. It used to be a bit of a joke. You never knew what you're going to get. He could either score a worldie or, he would blast the thing wide, but he's taking more care with his finishing. I just want to see him more involved in games, and I want to see him taking his fullback on more than he is at the moment, But he's got a lot about him, He's got a lot of raw talent, and each year he's improved. He's stalled a little bit at the moment, but I think it's just a loss of form. I don't think there's any trend there, but he's got a lot of different attributes to his game.
Chris, I'll come back to you on the Mbeumo conversation, but from a Brentford perspective, you look at where they are on the table, just above top half. What would you say would be, in your opinion, as an opposition fan, a realistic expectation for Brentford with the squad that they've got this season?
I think, do you know what, Pete? I think it goes back to what we were saying the other day on Top Table Talk, when we were talking to Adam, the Brighton fan. And for me, I think Brentford finishing in the top 10 will be a real achievement. And that's not me talking Brentford down in any way. But, looking at the fixtures, because obviously I don't follow it that closely, but looking at the fixtures, that Lewis has just mentioned that Brentford have had, they've had a difficult start. Let's not forget, they lost their out-and-out number 9. Obviously to Saudi Arabia. I think it was Al Hilal, wasn't it? And no doubt that will have been a big hit for Brentford. But they've got a lot of good players. The thing with a Thomas Frank team that I've noticed whenever I've watched Brentford is that they're very tight knit. They're difficult to break down. They're a team who you're in for a battle, and I think we'll soon find that out on Saturday, 3:00. But for me, Pete, I think Brentford are a good, solid, established Premier League side, and that is a compliment, by the way, Lewis. It's so easy. You look towards the bottom of the table, and there's teams where we say it, as neutral fans, where you go, oh, I don't know if they're going to struggle. Like Brentford never go in that conversation anymore. It's just not. Brentford's going down is not in the conversation, and I think that's credit to you because I rate Thomas Frank. I think you've got some really good players, and who knows, you could end up doing a Brighton where you lose a couple of players over the next few windows, but as long as you invest it wisely, there's no reason why you can't kick on and then start regularly becoming in the top 10. But I think Brentford could finish top 10. It won't be easy because given the quality, loads of teams have improved the quality, haven't they, in recent years. But I don't see why not, and I think they're in the conversation to do that.
It was a couple of years ago. You were well in the conversation when we were fighting for the sort of top 4. You were in that conversation. Fulham was in that conversation where you were having a really solid season. And Chris, you touched on Ivan Toney there. Have you missed him? Have you missed him since he's gone? Has it been a bit of a hole, or is any other players sort of filled that void, that gap?
It's going to sound odd, but we haven't missed him, I don't think. I think we're a better team than we were when he was in the side. What's held us back is injuries. We've still got our first choice fullback's both been out for more than a year now, Rico Henry and Aaron Hickey. We missed Norgard and Jensen last night in our midfield. Josh De Silva's been out for 2 years. Our injury, and I know you guys have had injury problems as well, but they've haunted us now for well over a year, to the point where there were games last season where we had literally 2 of our first 11 available, for week after week. So that, for me, masked the fact that we were doing really well without Ivan Toney. We've adjusted our style of play. We've part of the transition I was talking about earlier in our pattern of play has been to rely more on short passing, quick breaks. It's all about pace. One of the real, and Chris mentioned about the strength, the physical strength of the side. The other thing is the pace. We've got pace in a lot of positions now. Lewis Potter's come in. We've got Kevin Schade up front. We've just got Thiago. All of these people are kind of seriously quick, and that's been a conscious kind of tactic. Collins at the back is also pacey. So there's a real kind of, there's an athleticism about the side. But we're playing better football without Toney. And remember, we're so used to life without him. He last played a game in anger for us, best part of 2 years ago now. He came back for, probably about 10 games at the end of last season, was out of sorts. He kept on getting picked, which is one of the very few issues I would take with Thomas Frank's team selection. It was like he felt he had to give 90 minutes to Ivan Toney every week when he was clearly labouring. And it meant players like Wissa, who is, a fantastic player, was on the bench, and that didn't feel like the team was being picked on merit anymore for a period of time. So you know, he was brilliant for us. He was a big part in getting us into the Premier League and then getting established there. But we needed to move on. We didn't need that big target man. We also didn't need someone with quite such a big ego as well. It's about, you know, the team side of things that, again, Chris mentioned. That is so important. And Thomas Frank has really instilled that. And I think it's easier to achieve without Ivan Toney, to be honest. I mean, good luck to him. You know, he's a brilliant player, but we needed to move on, and we have, you know.
Yeah.
Lewis, just a quick question. I just looking at the appearances for players, but Aaron Hickey, he must be injured, is he? He hasn't played this season.
Yeah, he got injured. It looked like quite an innocuous one, probably about midway through last season, and just hasn't appeared since. You know, I don't think he's even back in full training yet. Rico Henry even longer. He got injured, must have been about September last year, and he really is one of our best players, you know, best ever players. So that's been the position. Those two positions they've troubled us for a year and a half now.
So, looking at the game on Saturday, what are you most worried about with regards to Newcastle United coming to town? Like, what would you consider is the biggest threat to Brentford?
I think probably Isak. In previous years, I've said Saint Maximin. You know, I'm so glad he's not at your club anymore, because he tore us apart so many times. But I think, yeah, Isak, Anthony Gordon, when he's on form, you know, he again caused us real issues before he joined you. Whenever we played Everton, he was always a standout player with his pace and his kind of directness. So probably those two. Bruno in midfield, I really like. There's a kind of an energy about Newcastle that's, you know, we know we're going to be up against it. But I think for me, it'd probably be a combination of those three players, really. And Callum Wilson, when he's fit and available and starting, you know, I've always rated him as a player, actually, and a finisher. So he, you know, whether he gets 90 minutes or whether he comes on, I know that he's going to be a handful.
Yeah, we finally got him fit. He's been back for the last few games now.
Okay.
Coming off the bench as it is, he's not really made a stamp on the game, but I think Newcastle have been very, very sort of cautious with his transition back.
Yeah.
Team, but we've got players back. I mean, Trippier was he didn't feature in the squad on Wednesday due to illness. He may well come back into the fold. We've got obviously Wilson back now. I think the only ones really that are missing is Sven Botman and Jamal Lascelles, which will probably be towards the end of December into January. But okay. you touched on a number of players that might be missing for Brentford on Saturday. You know, just run through those names again. And is any of those names that you previously mentioned going to be returning for the game at the weekend?
Yeah, so the ones we've definitely got out are Rico Henry, Aaron Hickey, Josh Da Silva, a new signing called Nunes, hasn't played a game yet for us. Got the injury jinx before he'd even set foot on the pitch.
Yeah, it was a striker.
Sorry?
Is it a striker?
Yeah, attacking midfielder, kind of, yeah. Jensen apparently is not going to be back for the weekend. Christopher Ayer is out at the moment. Yeah. God, there's probably a couple more. The list is always long at Brentford these days. One player
I did hear.
Oh, God.
Yeah, you might be getting to it. Yeah, go for it, Lewis.
I was just going to say that I think Norgard will be back, and he's very important to us.
Yeah, good player. Good player.
Okay. So yeah,
but the player to watch out for. There's two players actually, I would say, and it's been interesting. The kind of almost like the changing of the guard, really. But two players who last year the fans really were kind of getting concerned about. We paid reasonable money for both of them. Have really come on this season. One is Keane Lewis Potter, who currently is filling in at left back for Rico, and he's been a revelation actually from Hull City originally. Mm-hmm. And the other is Mikkel Damsgaard, another Danish midfielder for us. he has been definitely our best player this season. Really creative, energetic, real high like footballing IQ, really good kind of control in tight areas. Scored a goal last night. He's come from nowhere really. He was a massive disappointment for a long time, and he's suddenly got to a different level, and he's head and shoulders above everyone else now. And the other one who is worth keeping, who's really come on this season, is Nathan Collins at centre back. He's looking a really good acquisition actually. Yeah, that's right, from Wolves.
Yeah, it's funny. Oh, sorry, go on, Pete.
No, go for it.
No, I was just going to say it's funny on Damsgaard, because I remember when you signed Damsgaard, and I forget, was it? I'm trying to think what tournament it was. Was it the World Cup? And
it was the Euros. I think it was the tournament that Eriksen had his like heart attack.
Yes.
He came in to replace him. Yeah.
I've seen him a few times, and I thought he's good playing him, and then all of a sudden Brentford signed him, and it was weird, Lewis, because he was always on the bench, and he'd get a few minutes here and there, but it was as if he didn't quite settle. So to hear you say that, that he's probably been your best player so far this season, I'll be paying particular interest to him, because I think he's a really good player, and it's nice to hear that he's kind of come out of his shell a little bit, and he's really starting to perform. Because, like I say, when you signed him, I was like, I remember seeing him. He looked really, really good, as I say, on the international stage. So, interesting one. Sorry, Pete, what were you going to say, mate? I think you were going to talk about Collins, weren't you?
No, I'm just going to say, obviously, Collins came from Wolves, and he had not been there long himself, and I think it was a real disappointment from Wolves fans that they'd lost him to you guys. But I think they're under financial constraints and had to sell on. But he's certainly been a big signing for you. I've always been impressed with Ethan Pinnock. I remember when we beat you guys 5-1 or 5-0 at St James's Park the season we got Champions League, and I think he'd only just come back from a serious injury. And we kind of seen the worst from him that day because he scored an own goal, and everyone thought, he's not very good. But once he got back up to form, whenever I've watched him, he's really impressed me. He seems like a real leader on the pitch, good in the air, really strong. He looks like he's got a little bit of quite a thin frame, a little bit like Isak, kind of like a thin frame, but he's a strong lad.
Absolutely right. I mean, he's been as good as anybody for us over the last 5 years. And I remember that game well. Yeah, he had a nightmare, didn't he? I think he stumbled over the ball at one point. But you're right, it was the first game back, and it looked to me like he'd been rushed back, because he's so important to us. But this season, something's happened to him. He's seems to have lost a yard of pace. He was at fault he gave away a penalty last night. He's got bullied by I know everyone gets bullied by Haaland, but Watkins last night had the edge over him. Probably 4 or 5 games this season he's looked off it, and he's a worry. And I've said Bryan Mbeumo has been quiet. Those two, I reckon most Brentford fans last season would say were our best 2 players, and neither have really been on it this year. But Pinnock's becoming a real worry, and we can't work out whether he's just like over the hill, but he was brilliant last season. Or whether he's carrying a knock or something. But if I was Thomas Frank, I don't know what's going on there, but he doesn't look himself at all. And I worry about him against Isak, who's quick and strong. And Ethan's just not himself at the moment. So I hope that, whatever's been troubling him is clearing up. But he looked more off colour than ever last night against Villa.
You've already answered my next question. So a couple of questions before I want to get predictions from us all. But yeah, we'll go with that one since you mentioned it, because I was going to ask you, okay, from a Newcastle perspective, how do we get in against Brentford? It was a high-scoring game last season, back end of last season. So we've scored goals when we've come to your place previously, but obviously with a change in style and transition, how do we get up against you? So you've talked about Ethan Pinnock as being a potential weak link in that team. Anything else where Newcastle could potentially exploit you?
Yeah, I mean, I think particularly at the moment, down our right-hand side. So we've got a centre-back playing right-back because Hickey's not available. in Vandenberg, who was signed from Liverpool. And he looks to me a bit of a fish out of water, really. I think you can tell he's got something about him. You know, you can tell he's quite a quality player, but he's pretty new to playing right back, and he's neither that convincing going forward. You know, he doesn't bomb forward at all, and he doesn't link particularly well with Bryan Mbeumo on that side. Nor does he, you know, I don't fancy him in a 1-against-1 against a decent, quick winger. He looks, so that side of things. Lewis Potter is, you know, seems to have solved the problem we had at left back, which has been our Achilles heel for so long now without Rico. But Potter's playing really well, so I feel more confident about that. But yeah, whoever plays wide left for you, who is probably Gordon, is it?
I hope so.
Yeah, I can see that being a bit of a mismatch, actually.
Do you know what, Lewis? Just to add into that, and you know, the lads will laugh now when I say this name. They will laugh, but I didn't know that you were playing the young lad from Liverpool. Is it Sepp Blatter?
That's him. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, Vandenberg.
Yeah, Vandenberg. That's
Sepp Blatter. No.
I know. I'm trying to say Sepp Blatter.
That would make me laugh.
No, it's not even that name. But yeah, we that's a standard joke with us, by the way, because me and a couple of my blue mates, we would all go mad, you know, because obviously over the PSR thing and all that. And then we heard that Brentford had sold, Liverpool had sold this lad to Brentford for 20 million, and we were all going, "Who is he? Like, where's we got this 20 million pound player from?" And just gone, "Oh yeah, you can have him." So anyway, separate story. But what I wanted to ask you was, like, I'm going to say the name now. Does it remind you at all of like when Ben Godfrey joined Everton from Norwich, right? Now I'm honestly, you'll know where I'm going with this.
Here we
Ben
go.
Godfrey joins Everton from Norwich, and I always felt sorry for him because he's a natural centre back, and he was played left back, then he was played right back, and I feel like it has a major impact on his career. Obviously, he's ended up at Atalanta, which has been a stroke of luck for him. But is there any concern from your point of view that Van der Berg, so early on in his Brentford career, they're like, "Yeah, go on, mate, play right back"? And is it going to dent his confidence? Is it going to knock him? You know, you mentioned the fact that he doesn't venture forward. Probably not because he's not capable of doing it, but is there a nervousness there? And it's just like, if he's going to be your centre back for the coming years, well, the years to come, like, is it a risk doing that to a youngster? Do you think?
I think it is. I mean, I would agree with you. I think that if you look at it positively, you could say, well, he's getting he's getting more all-round experience. Do you know what I mean? Getting familiar with different positions. And to be fair, he wouldn't get in the side unless well, you know, if Pinnock doesn't improve, then he probably would come in at, you know, either him or Ben Mee would come in instead of Pinnock. But you know, up till a couple of weeks ago, I'd say he wouldn't have a chance of getting in as centre back. Yeah. So it's the only way he can get 90 minutes. But I do agree, it is a concern. He's not showing himself at his best to the fans, you know. And you could say similar things about Lewis Potter as well, because he's, you know, the minute, you know, everyone knew that he was like a wide player, you know, attacking wide player, and he's played in defensive positions more often, or wing back, than he has actually kind of as an attacking wide player. And I think that dented his confidence for a while. You know, he looked like a bit of a fish out of water, but you know, he's last 5-6 games, he's really suddenly grown into that, you know. But yeah, I do worry a bit about Vandenberg, you know, and he's come from a big club to a much smaller club, and I think he probably would be expecting to be you know, almost, there's probably a feeling of being quite entitled really to play in his preferred position. He's not played there once so far, apart from in the League Cup. So yeah, he's probably not he probably feels like he's not been able to show himself at his best yet.
Yeah.
Well, let's get down to business then. Let's look at predictions for this game on Saturday. I'll go first. I think it's going to be another close game. I think there's going to be goals. But I think, it's more hope than think. I'm not going to lie. but I'm going to go with a Newcastle United win, and I'm going to say it's going to be 3-2. So strap yourself in, boys. It could be another bumpy ride again, but that's what I'm going to go for. But yeah, I do think it's going to be close. That's what you're thinking.
Well, you all know that I set a challenge to Eddie over the month of December. So this is the second game in the month. So what Newcastle turns up now away from home, we haven't been great, and we haven't been great full stop for 2 games before that. But if the poor Newcastle side turns up, we'll lose 1-0. But I think after the performance against Liverpool, I'm going to say 2-1 Newcastle. That's my prediction.
Ooh. Okay. Okay. Lewis, we'll come to you next as the opposition fan. From a Brentford perspective, what do you think the score's going to be?
I think there'll be goals. I mean, you're right. It's going to end up 0-0, isn't it? This is absolutely. We look so good at home going forward. There's a real fluidity to the way that we play. I think we'll score at least a couple. So I'm going to. But I worry about us defensively, and there were moments last night when we were shocking, So I think you'll get a couple, but I think we'll edge it. So I'm going to go 3-2 Brentford.
Oh.
Our home record is really, really good. We drew one game, we've won 5 or 6. We do look good.
Okay, Chris. So it's on you. Me and Daz have gone for a Newcastle win, although a tight win, lots of goals. Are you going to be the 0-0er in the camp, or are you going to go Newcastle? What are you thinking?
I'm not going to go 0-0. I do think there'll be goals, but what I am going to do is I'm going to sit on the fence because Lewis, you won't know this, but a few weeks back we were looking at our fixtures coming up, and I'll be honest, I looked at West Ham, I looked at Palace, and I was thinking, we should beat West Ham. Away to Palace will be a little bit sticky, which it proved. And weirdly, I fancied Liverpool win, as these boys know. But my prediction at the time, when I was doing the points tallies, was that we would go to Brentford and get a draw. So I'm going to stick with that. Although you have left me feeling encouraged with your wing back positions, I must be honest. But I'm going to stick with 1-1. So yeah, I'd say draw. I'm going to go 1-1.
Okay. So the predictions are in. People in the comments, once you're watching this, make sure you give your predictions as well. Look, Lewis, huge thanks for you joining us for the match preview. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah, likewise. Great to see you boys again.
And you, and obviously great work from your channel as well, Basotti B. So anyone that's not subscribed and checking out the Brentford content over there, make sure you go and do that. And I'm sure it'll be in the description as well. We'll leave it there, guys. We'll leave it there. Let's wait to see what the boys produce on Saturday. But I think from what we've all said and what we've all talked about, there's a high chance there's going to be some goals in it. So let's wait and see. Yeah. But look, anything to add, boys, before we wrap up?
No, just thanks again to Lewis, and best of luck for the rest of the season after this game. The usual.
Yeah, quite.
Of course. And as always, I don't do this a lot. We do love playing away.
Take
I
care.
like that, people.